Hi, I'm Brandon Reeson. I am presenting to you today my research for English. I am pushing the argument that the FSA directly influenced modern photojournalism. I will begin the presentation by introducing 4 photographers of the many that were hired to photograph the success of the New Deal. With each of these photographers, each of them brought their own style and artistic view. The first one is Walker Evans, who is on the top left, and Gordon Parks, who's on the top right. Dorothea Lange, who's on the bottom left, and Marion Post Wilcott, who's on the bottom right. The first of the 3 reasons for my argument is on the grounds of style. And with each of the photographers that I show from the FSA, I'm going to break down their style, and you can see some of the images below it that kind of go with the style. Walker Evans had his own style, which he brought to the table, and with his images, he pushed to give a poetic feel to the commonplace, no matter how rough or unpleasant, and to show the elements of life. He focused mainly on architecture and outdoor advertising and the beginnings of the automobile culture, along with some domestic interiors. And you can see these styles, especially with the advertising and text, which he loved to shoot with text. You can see in images 1, 3, 5, and 6 the use of advertising, and on the photo on the bottom you can kind of see the poetic feel that he gives with his images. The next photographer we're going to look at is Dorothea Lange. And Dorothea Lange had her own style. Her style was to capture the life of the Depression and broken lives of the Dust Bowl. Not only did she want to capture the moment, but she strived to catch the emotions in her photography. And you can see this in the top left image, which is her most famous image, which has been a trademark image for the FSA and studies of the Great Depression, which is the migrant mother. She is also most known for her images of the tent communities where the homeless would congregate during the Resettlement Act, and which you can see in the bottom part of the slide, the bottom 3 photos. The next photographer we're going to look at is Gordon Parks. And Gordon Parks is a renowned movie director, famous for the Shaft movies in the 1970s. But he is also most known for his work photographing the lives and triumphs of the African American community. His most famous image, Made in America, which is in the top left of the slide, which was more of an accident for him, but he was photographing an African American janitor at a building in Washington, D.C., and just happened to catch her in front of the American flag. And this has become another one of those trademark images of the FSA, but also the beginnings of the civil rights movement as well. He also focused on the black Muslim population and was one of the key photographers that photographed Muhammad Ali. And you can see with the rest of these images that not only did he want to just focus on the African American community, but to show them as people, not as just another worker or not, but he showed them as people, as children, and as human beings too. And the final one we're going to look at for the FSA was Marion Post Wilcott. And she said in her biography that I was committed to changing the attitudes of people by familiarizing Americans with the plight and of the underprivileged, especially in rural America. And that's exactly what she did. She focused very strongly on shooting tenant houses and migrant workers, in which you see in the bottom center is the migrant workers, but a lot of these are tenant houses. And the FSA was I'd like to point out, was one of the first agencies ever to use colored film. And you can see that in the center image at the top. and she was a big player with the colored film, and it was, of course, they called sepia film, which did not last as long, did not last like black and white has. But it was pioneer. The FSA pioneered many aspects of photography, but also in many styles, which each person carried their own, which is carried on today. But another reason I was pushing this argument is my second reason for the argument, which the FSA photographers were fearless in the way that they captured images. As I said before, the FSA was designed to show the success of the New Deal, but as you can see, that they have not. And the photographers, as I said, were hired to show the success of the New Deal, but what they captured did not show that, and that it was one of the reasons that the FSA ended up being let go. But they were not afraid to show the world that the New Deal was not working, and that they went against the grain to show not what they were asked to shoot, but what they saw and what was really happening. And that made them pioneers for their day. What we're going to look at is photographers beyond the FSA, and this is moving into World War II and Vietnam. And some of the photographers in which I'm going to show on this slide is Robert Capa, and you can see a lot of his images are on the top and down in the center. But Robert Capa took it to the next level. Not only did he shoot what he saw, especially during the invasion of Normandy on D-Day, but he also was with the troops and was not afraid for his life. That in the aspect that he went, the story for him, the images that he made were worth more than his life. And that's how he captured his photography, from the landing in Normandy to the invasion of the beach to the raising of the flag in the Pacific. Capa put his life on the line to bring the images home. And one of the second photographers we're going to look at, who was during Vietnam, was a Vietnamese who shot for the West. And you can see much of these images have not been seen before in America, except during film studies. But a lot of his images were graphic, but he was not afraid to photograph the taboo or to put his life on the line to get it. And he was another one of those, like Capa, that was right in the heat of action to make it to make the image happen. And we're going to look at modern photography, and I'm not going to go too heavy on this, but just as you can see on the next slide, a lot of correlation between the past and the present. As you can see in a lot of these reflect back to the style and feel that you see with the FSA. I'm just going to leave it here for just a few seconds so you can see and look through these. And in the next few slides, I'm going to really show a couple of the modern photos with the past, just to show, rather than just words in a research paper, that you can see visually of the similarities of the past with the present. You can see on the left is an image by Steve McCurry called Afghan Girl, which was shot in the 80s, but is very similar to the image on the right, Migrant Mother. And both these images, both photographers didn't show just an image to show, what's happening, but used the expressions and the subject to show emotion, to bring the feeling of the image. In this image on the left, I've got two photos by Dorothea Lange that you can see from the migrant camps. And you can see on the right are two images from 2008 from the homeless camps in Fresno, California, that you can see both are almost uncanny in the style that they were shot. Now, the last slide that you can see is that same image from Walker Evans that we looked at the beginning of the presentation, and an image from 2003 in Memphis, that they still use the same style to portray an image. And you can see that they used the poetic feel of taking race with advertisement. So I hope through this presentation I can have visually shown you what was in what I put in my research, is that the style and the fearlessness of going against the grain to bring the story to the public at all costs is still being carried on today, and has been carried from the FSA to modern photojournalism, and ultimately that the FSA has directly influenced modern photojournalism today. So thank you, and good night.